What up, everybody? Good morning and happy hangover day. Super Bowl hangover. Dan Kasper Show on the air. Appreciate you checking us out, however, and wherever you may be tuning in this morning on this fine Monday morning of February 13th. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit it up for a brand new week. Maybe you're taking the day off, which should be a national holiday after the big game yesterday. Who knows? But big thanks for making us a part of your start here this morning. Oh man, we got plenty to catch up on here with the Super Bowl from last night. Chiefs picking up the W late in the game, second half comeback, kicking that field goal with just a few seconds left in the game to take the lead. And Andy Reid getting his second Super Bowl as a head coach. Patrick Mahomes getting his second Super Bowl. First quarterback to win MVP, regular season MVP, and a Super Bowl since that would be Kurt Warner. So it's been a hot minute. It's been a while since that's actually happened. But plenty to recap and chat about with this game, and we'll be doing a big chunk of it here this morning, throughout this morning. But got that on the game plan. What else do we got on the game plan here to begin this week? We're going to talk a little more green and gold too. Now that Aaron Rodgers is going to be in darkness for at most 4 days. Now, he did say he could leave and all that. We ain't going to deep dive his journey into darkness or anything like that. However, yesterday, with all the pregame stuff that was, all over the board, whether it was on TV or on the radio, all day coverage there was a nugget from the NFL Network from Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero that some teams have began to inquire about the availability of Aaron Rodgers in a trade. The Packers saying, well, they don't even know what his plan is yet, so they can't really do anything about it until Aaron Rodgers decides what he's going to do at this point. But according to the NFL Network and Ian and Tom saying that the Packers perhaps a little more open. They are more open this year to potentially moving on from their quarterback. So that was the narrative that was kind of being thrown out there, especially on the good old social media of Facebook and Twitter. But the one nugget that kind of was getting a little bit, let's just say, glossed over, overlooked, was the part where they said, on the other hand, if you didn't read it on NFL.com, on the other hand, if Rodgers decides he wants to stay in Green Bay, the Packers would want him back. The sides had productive conversations in the days after finishing a disappointing 8-9 season. More conversations figured to be needed, though, to make sure everyone is on the same page about the direction of the franchise and the roster. So, again, for all of the speculation and trying to read between the lines and trying to read the tea leaves, let's just wait for the quarterback to freaky make his decision. All right, it starts there. Just like it was all at the beginning of this whole thing. Everybody's trying to figure out where the decision's going to be or what that decision's going to be and that sort of thing. But I will say this. I don't know who the sources are from NFL Network or from the NFL or anything like that, but Packers are doing a pretty darn good job of some PR work, I will say, to kind of really throw it out there that, hey, it's Aaron Rodgers who's driving this train. It's Aaron Rodgers' decision if he wants to have a divorce or anything like that. So, tip of the cap to the Packers PR department for kind of throwing that out there a little bit, trying to cover their behinds here a little bit, putting those nuggets out there saying, well, we want him back, but if he doesn't, if he gets traded, it's because he doesn't want to be here, sort of thing. So, well done. Well done, Green Bay. Learn from the good old 08 season, right? So, but we'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on, too. We will throw in some hoop stock. It's been a few days since since the Bucks were in action last Friday, or I guess not that long ago, but Friday was their last game where they got another win against the Clippers, sweeping their West Coast trip. Now they got a big game, Valentine's Day date with the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. It's going to be a hell of a matchup right there. But the Bucks continuing their winning streak at 10 straight wins. Can't quite catch Boston for that first spot. They're still 1.5 back because Boston has won 4 in a row as well. But maybe they can inch it just a skosh a little closer by the time they play their game tomorrow. But we'll talk some hoops, look at this Bucks team, and yeah, we got to throw it in there. Badgers. I mean, goodness gracious, what an ugly loss to Nebraska, for crying out loud. Overtime. Couldn't close it out. Again, Badger hoops can't close it out. Can't seal the deal. As Greg Gard said after the game, they got what they deserved. What else can you say about that team? Really, what else? Marquette picked up a victory over Georgetown. Northwestern with a big upset, getting a victory over Purdue. So, I mean, I don't know. But this Badger Hoops team, it's ugly. It is ugly. And time is really running out here for this Badger Hoops team if they want to even, really try to climb up in the rankings. I mean, if you're looking at conference records, they're still up on Penn State. They're still up on Nebraska, even though they lost to Nebraska. They got Michigan coming up here. Michigan is tied up with Maryland and Rutgers and Iowa and Michigan State, all at 8 and 6. And then it's the Badgers at 6 and 8. But things ain't looking good right now. No, sirree. 14 and 10 right now on the season. That game against Michigan is going to be coming up tomorrow. So another Valentine's Day date here for this Badger Hoops team. But you look at it, they've got Michigan, Rutgers now in the top 25, or was in the top 25, Iowa, Michigan, Purdue, Minnesota. Just 6 more games left in this regular season. That's it. I almost feel like they got to win them all, or at least 5 of their final 6, and maybe win a game or 2 in the Big Ten Conference, and that still I wouldn't be like confident that they would make it into the Big Ten, or into the college tournament. Hey, pitchers and catchers, we might throw in a little baseball talk here because pitchers and catchers are reporting this week. How about that? We got games, spring training games coming up in a couple of weeks here too. It's getting closer. Baseball season getting closer now that the NFL is in the books. I know they were trying to pump the AFL and all that stuff yesterday, or the USFL and all that, but I wasn't a big fan of it last year. But football season for me is in the books until we get closer to draft time here. So it's time to get a little bit closer and closer to baseball season. Brewers.com, Adam McCulvey has a piece up at the website, the team's website. The top 3 storylines to watch this spring. Top 3 storylines. We're going to see if we agree with them. He's got figure out the bullpen, number 1. He's got assess the positional prospects. Talking about the youngsters that we keep hearing about in the farm system. Those outfielders. Garrett Mitchell, we saw towards the end of last year. Sal Frelick, get a lot of pub. Joey Weimer, Bryce Terang. And then, number 3, the new rules and the World Baseball Classic. The Brewers do have a few players that are going to be on some rosters for the World Baseball Classic. Devin Williams, Willie Adames, Rowdy Tellez, Luis Urias. Just to name a couple, there's a few more after that. But I think especially with the new rules there too. Going to be some teaching moments, going to be some coaching moments in spring training. But what else would you maybe add to this list if we were to expand it a little bit? What would you put on there, Brewers fans, for a storyline to watch? I think for me, obviously, bullpen is a big one. I agree with the new rules thing too. The banning of the shift, is that going to increase hitting? Is that going to increase production? But also, I'd probably put on there too, like solidifying positions. Like, I want to know who is going to be that third baseman. Is it going to be Luis Urias? Is it going to be somebody else? Are they going to get production from that spot? So I think there's a couple more I would add to that too. And then I want to see Freddie Peralta bounce back. Injured last year, kind of up and down. We know a little bit what to expect from Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. And maybe the other part too is uh, the back end of that starting rotation. Who's going to lock up the last couple spots? Is it going to be a Wade Miley? Could it be an Eric Lauer or Adrian Hauser? Or can Aaron Ashby take that next step? There's a lot of talk. We were going through some of the Fangraph projections, going through some of the preseason stuff. People are expecting, at least the analytic people are out there, expecting Aaron Ashby to make a jump this year. Is he going to do that? What are going to be our kind of first glimpses of that in spring training? Are we going to see something similar to what we saw with Freddie Peralta a couple years ago where, he was kind of in a battle for that fifth spot in the starting rotation, maybe before the spring training season began, where it was kind of teetering towards that. He's probably going to start off in the bullpen, but he had a fantastic spring, and it developed into an all-star season for him. Can Aaron Ashby have a similar type of start to that with this upcoming spring training? So we'll throw some baseball chat in there too, but what else would you add? What else would you add to storylines to watch for this spring for the Brewers as pitchers and catchers start to report this week and team workouts? And we've got, when is it? Let me look at the calendar here. So it's going to be the 18th. Hey, now, we're going to have games coming up already next week, spring training games. Yeah, buddy. So think about that for a little bit. You can hit me up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or find me on Twitter at DANKASPER. Also, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports, or you could comment on the video stream. Also, we are going to do a little studs and duds coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. So you can send me your studs and duds list. I got a few duds on this one. I try to keep it to like one or two, but I've got a few duds on my list. So we'll send those babies on over. Got a little motivational Monday. And then press pass. If you could ask one question to anybody in the sports world, maybe if you were at one of those post-game pressers yesterday from the Super Bowl, if you could ask one question to anybody in the sports world and get a truthful answer, what would it be? What would it be? Have a little fun with this. So, and then JC and EC Justice Cleveland will join us just past 7 o'clock here this morning, 7 to 8. But let's get things rolling here this morning. Let's recap the game from last night. Your thoughts, your analysis, your reaction, all that good stuff. Hit me up with a text, a tweet, Facebook message. Does this solidify Andy Reid as a Hall of Fame head coach now? Is his bust in Canton solidified right now? He had the one win. He has a bunch of regular season wins, but now he's got 2 Super Bowls. Is he a lock for the Pro Football Hall of Fame? A lot of talk, obviously, too, with Patrick Mahomes, 2 MVPs and 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 Super Bowl championships. He's 27 years old. A lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes as well. But other impressions. Maybe you have some impressions about the Eagles. Sounds like maybe the Eagles coaching staff might get a little plucked. Sounds like their offensive coordinator is going to be named the Colts head coach, and now the Cardinals, with a late request, asking to interview their defensive coordinator. So maybe that team's going to be, or at least that coaching staff's going to be plucked here a little bit. But I want to hear from you. So we'll take that first break, and then the opening drive. We'll get things started off on this Monday morning, recapping Super Bowl. Your thoughts? Good game? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? I know where some of you are going to go. We'll talk about the officiating coming up next. Hey, speaking of Mike Star Markets, little birdie told me that we're going to have an announcement this week about some of those brats that you all voted on just a little bit ago. Might be something on the shelves, but more deets to come, more details to come this week. So make sure you're tuning in, or make sure you're a sports insider at sportstalk1051.com as well. All right, you'll be the first ones to know over there if you are an insider. Some details on those brats and snack sticks we've been working on with Mike's Star Markets. That's going to go help backyard dreams. Can't wait for that. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning on that opening drive, recapping last night's Super Bowl victory for the Kansas City Chiefs, 38-35. Chiefs making the second half comeback. I felt like first half, I felt like the Chiefs were just lucky to be down by 10 going into the half last night. It's like because Eagles were just dominating offensively. I mean, controlling the time of possession. They were just they were imposing their will. It felt like, and it just felt like it felt like the Eagles should have been up by a whole lot more. So that's why I felt like the Chiefs almost was like it was lucky that they were down by 10. And it was a big boost that they got the ball to begin the second half. And then the second half, it was just a flip of the script, really. And, you got to give Andy Reid and his offensive staff, Eric Bieniemy, I think a lot of credit for some of their play calls and game planning and such, especially those, last couple of touchdowns there where they were just wide open. I mean, just freaking wide open. Sky Moore being one of them too, and such. And that was all scheme there. But Patrick Mahomes re-aggravating the ankle injury before the half, still finished the game 21-27, 182 yards for 3 touchdowns, getting that Super Bowl MVP, second time in his career. And then, we kind of said it late last week. I felt like it was going to be whoever has the most turnovers might be the deciding factor. And it was just one, but it was a big one. It was Jalen Hurts, the fumble. Chiefs picked it up, returned it for a tutty. And it was, you look at that play, and, they don't fumble that. Maybe it's a little bit of a difference early in the game, but you kind of have to look back at that one just a little bit. Obviously everybody's looking at Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and such, and I'll get that. But I want to give the Eagles a little bit of credit here too. Jalen Hurts, I think if there was any other, and I'll be honest, I was one of those two for the longest time. And even leading up to the Super Bowl, there was a lot of like current players kind of showcasing or throwing out some doubt, like, don't really buy into the Eagles thing, or don't even, really fully buy into Jalen Hurts. I think it was Robbie Gould, kicker for the 49ers, that said, make Jalen Hurts play quarterback, and then Chiefs are going to have a good shot at winning this. I mean, just kind of throwing, little shots like that out there all week. It wasn't just Gould. It was other players and such. I mean, there was a lot of, like, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and a lot of analysts, like, right, picking the Eagles. Even, Fox guys, I think every single one of them picked the Eagles. So it was like a lot of analysts were picking the Eagles for this, but then you looked at like current players and such, and felt like majority maybe were going to the Chiefs here a little bit. But Jalen Hurts, outside of that fumble, 27 of 38, 304 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 15 carries for 70 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Eagles win that game. Jalen Hurts is easily the Super Bowl MVP of that game. I mean, you want to talk about time of possession. 35, almost 36 minutes for the Eagles compared to just over 24 for the Chiefs there. And for the longest time, the Eagles were dominating in the first downs. got a little bit closer. Eagles finished with 25. Kansas City had 21 total yards. Eagles 417. Kansas City 340. So I think if there was any doubts about Jalen Hurts, is he a legit, top tier quarterback? Is he still considered a long term starter? Should he get that big contract, et cetera, et cetera? If there was any doubts about Jalen Hurts, well, you didn't get any from this game. I thought he played fantastic, being aggressive, throwing the ball down the field too. Moment wasn't too big for him. It didn't look like it for him yesterday. Outside of that one mistake with the fumble, he looked pretty darn comfortable out there. So I want to give him a lot of credit, and I want to give that Eagles offense a lot of credit too. I mean, they were they were just looking dominant, especially in that first half. And then, that touchdown to tie it up there. I mean, that's a that's a fantastic and a ballsy play too by Jalen Hurts. I know he was wide open. I know AJ, or was it Smith, was wide open at the end, but you could sense the momentum shift from the Chiefs going up 8. Gotta have this drive. They go down there and they get it, and they get the 2-point conversion too. So it was a hell of a game for Jalen Hurts. And I know a lot of people were just like banging the drum on the Eagles. This is the one thing I will say about the Eagles, maybe a little bit of a downer. Everybody was banging the drum on the Eagles defense, and they were great all season long at, getting after the quarterback, putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, they led the league in sacks. The second place team was the Chiefs, but it was by like 15 more sacks in the regular season than what second place Chiefs had. The Eagles didn't get to Patrick Mahomes. That defense couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes. And they couldn't, stop him. They couldn't stop the Chiefs in the second half. Could do anything. Where'd they go? Now, a little bit of that is credit to Andy Reid and that offense for scheming it up and attacking it and such, but where was this defense? Kind of went away there a little bit. But let's get to the unfortunate call at the end of the game. We all know what we're talking about. It's the thing that's kind of like overshadowing this whole game. We should be talking about this whole game. It was a fantastic game. It was an entertaining game. It was a high-scoring game. But we're all kind of talking about the holding call at the end that extended the Chiefs' drive, that allowed them to take down the clock and kick the go-ahead field goal with 8 seconds left. Now, James Bradbury was the corner who was called for the hold. After the game, and this is where I got a kind of tip of the cap to him for, kind of saying this and being honest. He admitted, he said it was a hold. Quote, I was hoping he would let it go, but of course he's a ref. It was a big game. It was a hold, so they called it. So he admitted it was a hold. Carl Cheffers, the head official yesterday after the game, saying the receiver went to the inside and he was attempting to release to the outside. The defender grabbed the jersey with his right hand and restricted him from releasing to the outside. So therefore, we called defensive holding. It was a clear case of the jersey grab that caused restriction. There was no debate. Okay. It was a hold. They called it. By all definitions, it was the correct call. Here's my issue with it. And I know a lot of people are, throwing their arms up and how do you call that? Here's my issue with the whole thing. There was plays like that or similar plays to that weren't called earlier in the game. My biggest issue is if you're going to call it at that point in time, at that stage, time winding down, and I know you can't, the officials can't really factor in at what point of the game and all that. Probably, they gotta call it regardless if it's early in the first or late in the fourth. But my problem is that it sure seemed like there was other calls or other plays that were similar to that, and they didn't call holding. They didn't call PI or thing. The one I'm going to is that keeps flashing in my head is earlier in the game. And it was actually it would have benefited the Chiefs earlier, so you could say, well, makeup call or whatever. The Juju Smith-Schuster one, if you remember that, where you kind of got turned around and they didn't call it. Not only that, but if you watch it and they didn't highlight it, but if you watch it, MVS is kind of like running behind him, and you could clearly see an Eagles defender like holding on to MVS's jersey. I mean, it's clear. Yet there was no flags on that. So I guess my issue with this whole thing was it the correct call? It was the correct call, but it wasn't being called consistently like that throughout the whole game. That's my issue. And I get it. You're going to miss calls. You're going to miss it. But it just felt like, I guess, there was somebody, let me see if I can bring it up here. I thought it was a great assessment from the game here. Let me see if I can find it. Somebody had put it. Yeah, this was it. So this was from Michael Hurley. He's a sports radio guy in Boston. There were 0 calls. He said, just like last year, my issue is this. There were 0 calls for defensive holding before Bradbury was flagged. 0. All game. All game, there was no defensive hold. Players play to the game that's being called. The infraction, such as it was, far from being a big time penalty. I mean, it wasn't like he grabbed him and threw him down on the ground. You just can't call it. You cannot. It's frustrating. And I kind of forgot a little bit about it last year, but when you think about it last year with that Rams and Bengals Super Bowl, Logan Wilson's holding penalty came at 1 minute 47 seconds left in the Super Bowl. This one obviously came under 2 minutes. And both were the first defensive holding penalties of the game. Both were on third down. So that to me is my biggest issue is when you are not calling it like that throughout the whole game. And then you decide to do it. That to me is what bothered me the most. And unfortunately, it's something that's being talked about a little bit more than what the overall game. And it was an entertaining game. It was a fun game to watch, for crying out loud. We had a comeback. We had, star power in this thing. But we're talking about a play or a flag, I should say, at the end of the game. That yeah. Like I was looking at it too, and Greg Olsen, I know, was just like kind of like adamant. You can't make that call. And Mike Pereira said it was a textbook, kind of call that should have been. But I think I agree more with Greg Olsen. Like, I don't know. I thought I saw some worse things throughout the game that weren't called. And just, especially when you throw out that nugget that there were 0 called throughout the game. And when we thought there were ones that were clear ones, and I don't know. And I get it. You're going to miss stuff, but man, that's a tough pill to swallow. That's a really tough pill to swallow. But overall, if we take that away, your thoughts from the game, your impressions, does this solidify your stance, or does this solidify, I should say, Andy Reid's status as an all-time great head coach? I think it does. He's top 5 already in and wins in NFL history. He's got his second Super Bowl. He's been to 4? Yeah. 1 with the Eagles, lost to the Patriots, 3 with the Chiefs here. Lost to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in the other one. And I was looking at before the game, I was kind of looking at Andy Reid's career. By the way, he's already been with the Chiefs for 10 years. It does not seem like he's been there for 10 years already. Can you believe that? Holy crap. But 24 years. He's only had 3 losing seasons. All 3 were with Philly. One of them was his very first year as head coach. Another one was his very last year as head coach with the Eagles when they decided to move on from him. But in 24 seasons, just 3 losing seasons. He's never had a losing season since he's been with the Chiefs. And you kind of look at Andy Reid and some of the quarterbacks. He's got Patrick Mahomes right now. Patrick Mahomes is going to be an all-time great. When it's all said and done, he will be considered as an all-time great, maybe for some as the best ever, or at least the most talented of all time. But you look at some of the other quarterbacks he's had to work with. Donovan McNabb. Solid quarterback at times. All-time great? No. Kevin Kolb. Remember that short experiment with Kevin Kolb? And Kevin Kolb got a lot of concussions, ended his career shortly. Michael Vick coming back after his suspension and such. Had a couple good years there. And then goes to Kansas City. Alex Smith. They draft Patrick Mahomes. So I hope this kind of maybe shines a brighter light on Andy Reid's career. Like, I think some people kind of forget when you look at some of the numbers that he has put up or some of the wins that he has been a part of. And, you know, he's also a guy kind of like Belichick, where he's lost a lot of assistants throughout the years. You know, his coaching tree is pretty darn massive. Yet it never really seems to skip a beat in terms of his teams or his offenses. Like, you know, Doug Peterson went on to be a head coach. You know, Matt Nagy, now he's back with Kansas City as their quarterback's coach. You know, he's had guys go on and become head coaches or moved on, and yet it just kind of never skips a beat. Because one common factor is Andy Reid. That presence there and the job that he did. Now, I know it's still a big mystery of, like, well, is he the full-time play caller? Is it Eric Bieniemy? Andy Reid has never really, you know, he will say it's Eric Bieniemy, but maybe it's a little bit of both. And he was quick to acknowledge Eric Bieniemy too, you know, after the game with Tom Rinaldi, about the offensive performance in the second half. And Eric Bieniemy might be an offensive coordinator somewhere else next year, maybe to try to get under that limelight of an Andy Reid and showcase his talents and skills a little bit. But I think now this absolutely solidifies Andy Reid's stance as an all-time great, as one of the best head coaches in pro football history. And I know some people are going to say, well, it took him to get Patrick Mahomes to get his 2 Super Bowls. Great. But again, you look at some of the all-time great head coaches, they've had a quarterback with them. There's so many people that get so caught up in, is it the quarterback or is it the coach? It's a partnership. You need both. Bill Walsh had Joe Montana. Bill Belichick had Tom Brady. Vince Lombardi had Bart Starr. It's a partnership. It's a team. We don't always have to give more credit to the other person. Maybe Patrick Mahomes isn't Patrick Mahomes without Andy Reid. Does Andy Reid win those Super Bowls without Patrick Mahomes? Maybe not. Probably not. And I know a lot of people now are going to start to run with, like, well, where do you put Patrick Mahomes now on that quarterback ranking list? He's 27 years old, but, you know, we got to figure out if he's a top 10 or a top 5 quarterback right now. We got to do that. And he's off to a fantastic start to his very young career. I mean, 5 years as a starter. Dude's only been a starter for 5 years. Think about that. 5 years? That doesn't seem right. But he's been to 5 conference championships, 2 Super Bowls, he's won 2 Super Bowls, been to 3 Super Bowls. Man, unreal, right? But again, I think if you're a Philly fan and you've got what you saw from Jalen Hurts this year and what you saw from Jalen Hurts in that game yesterday, you got to be feeling pretty good about your quarterback. If there was any doubts, if there was any other doubts that were still out there about Hurts, and there was, let's be real, there was other, maybe not from Eagles fans, but there were from other, you know, whether it was current players or maybe some analysts out there were still some doubts about Jalen Hurts. He looked pretty darn comfortable in that game last night. And it's probably helps to have played for Alabama and national championships and that sort of thing. But he looked pretty darn sharp last night. Outside of that fumble, he looked pretty darn good. So I think if you're an Eagles fan, you got to be feeling good about your quarterback. You got to be feeling pretty good. Now we'll see if that Eagles coaching staff does get plucked. How will they bounce back next year? Will they be able to continue to rise and build over there? But I don't know. Do you consider the Chiefs a dynasty now? 3 Super Bowl appearances in the last 5 years. They've gotten 2 wins in the last 5 years. Do you consider the Chiefs a dynasty? Yay or nay? All right, we got to take a quick break, and then we'll only have a few minutes till the top of the hour, and then we'll get Justice Cleveland on just past 7 o'clock here this morning. Let me ask you, how do you take a coffee? Are you just straight up black type of coffee, or do you like a little cream or sugar in that thing? Maybe you're hot or iced coffee type of person. Maybe you're a latte. You know what? Don't matter because it's your coffee. Maybe you mix it up every once in a while to keep things unique and fresh. That's why at Cabin Coffee in Altoona, they have a wide selection of options for you to choose from. Whether you are in the mood for a blended frappe, an iced white coffee, or maybe an Americano, Cabin Coffee has the coffee that you are in the mood for. So head on over to River Prairie in Altoona and grab your beverage of choice at Cabin Coffee. Like they say in their cups, just be happy and have fun. You know, the other person that I think we've got to give shout out to for the Chiefs' success this year is their general manager, Brett Veach. You look at it and how many rookies were contributors on this team and some of their offseason moves. I mean, remember, they were a little similar in terms of Green Bay this offseason, trading, both teams trading their number one wide receivers. Tyreek Hill went to the Dolphins, Devontae to the Raiders. Yes, Kansas City had Travis Kelce, which is a world changer. But instead of just relying on the draft to fill in their wide receiver spots, they went and brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. They went and brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They also drafted Sky Moore. And then before the trade deadline, Kadarius Toney. They made that acquisition. But you had draft picks. I mean, their running back was, what, 7th round or 2? That defense was filled with some rookies on there contributing at a high level. Nick Bolton, for crying out loud, last night almost had 2 touchdowns. Did have 1 on defense. Had 180-some tackles in the regular season. I mean, rookies contributing. That was a 2nd-round pick, too. So you got to give some credit to that Chiefs general manager, Brett Veach, and for those rookies, for those youngsters stepping up in a big moment throughout the whole season and getting the job done. So while we're, rightfully so, giving some shout outs to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but those youngsters and that general manager did a hell of a job this year too. We only got 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll take a really, really, really quick phone call. Good morning. Who are we chatting with?
Good morning, El Capitano. How have you been, my brother?
I am doing well. How are you doing, T-Bomb?
I am doing well. No, I'm doing well. Long time no talk. Been traveling too much. But let me tell you what. I wanted to just give two quick points, and I agree with you 100% on that penalty. For me, that wrecked a perfect freaking Super Bowl. That was such a fun game to watch. And we were stolen of a potential big late drive by Philly. And I feel for guys like Philly fan Dave that are diehard Eagles fans that got robbed of a chance to win a Super Bowl. But it is what it is. One point I wanted to make about Andy Reid that I don't think people talk enough about, and it puts him at the top of who's the best offensive-minded coach there is. That guy comes up with more wrinkles inside the red zone than anybody I've ever, and it's every game there's something new. That. It really wasn't talked about, but that touchdown to Kadarius Toney from the 3-yard line. When is the last time you've seen a wide receiver with nobody within 5 yards of him inside the 3-yard line? He schemed that play perfectly, the way they ran in motion. The wide receivers were out treated. They ran him back. The guy's brilliant, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how well he's done. And you touched on it. He hasn't had Patrick Mahomes his whole career. He was doing this with the likes of Alex Smith and all the different quarterbacks you mentioned with the Eagles. And I think Andy Reid is, he's definitely got to be in the conversation of one of the best coaches to ever coach a team in the NFL.
The one thing too I will say about Reid, you mentioned that play. You look at the Eagles; they were expecting the jet sweep there. They were motioning for the jet sweep. That's a schematic play, like you said, to take advantage of that. But also too, this is a guy who's 65 years old. He's adapted with the times and he's adapted with the talent around him. Not many other coaches do what Andy Reid has done.
No, they haven't. You hit it. He's adapted, and he's changed his play calling. He's changed his offense has morphed as the NFL's morphed, and it's really been fun to watch. I think he is one of the, if not the most offensive-minded coach that's ever coached a team in the NFL. It's unbelievable, and it's really fun to watch, and it just stinks that it's with the Chiefs. But I'll tell you what, kudos to Andy Reid and that staff, and you touched on it. I mean, losing Tyreek Hill, I thought that's going to kill these guys, and it didn't. No. You hit it with the GM. I mean, they filled those gaps. And Andy Reid adjusted the offense to utilize the tools that he had, and he did it to perfection.
Yep, I totally agree, man. Well, it's good to hear from you, C-Bomb. You have a good rest of your day. We'll catch up soon, okay, bud?
Sounds great, my brother. You have a great week.
You too, bud. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off. We're already 1 hour into this thing. We got to take a break. We got some news updates, and then we'll catch up with Justice Cleveland. Catch up on some regional stuff and get some of your texts coming up after these words. All right, there you go. Nothing better to get you going on a Monday morning than hearing some third graders from Mr. Waller's class out in Medford with that intro song. Again, big thanks for those kiddos for that assignment that they did over that. I should say that project that they did for us over here. So gonna have to get a third one up there so we can mix it up, get 3 different intros on there. But again, big thanks to Mr. Waller's class there. We're already 1 hour into this thing on a Super Bowl on Monday. Justice Cleveland joining us this morning too. What's going on, big guy? How you doing?
Am I correct in Medford won the boys basketball conference?
I believe so. Yeah, it was Northland Pines. It was a great game at the end. I was watching along with Matt Fry, and it was like a last second maybe block or something like that. But yeah, they got her done. They've been good since. It's kind of funny because I know I mentioned this before, but their head coach Ryan Brown graduated from Altoona, and who's Altoona's boys head coach? Paul Henricks, who graduated from Medford. So yeah.
The trade has worked out well for both teams.
Yeah, Ryan has done a fantastic job over. I know they were 1 game short last year. They fell to lacrosse over at Eau Claire North. If you remember that game over there.
Yes, yes, I do. Yep.
So they were
good for them, and yeah, good luck for them in the playoffs here coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep, exactly. We're going to talk a little some of the regional stuff here because we got some brackets with girls hoops, high school girls hoops coming up here. But first, before we get to that, we got some sports nuggets here presented by ANC Associates. 1920. The National Negro Baseball League was organized. We got 1923, the Renaissance, the first African-American pro basketball team was organized. We've got 1930.
Cool name.
What's that? Yeah, I know, right?
I like that name.
I know. It's like back in the day, those names, even people's names like Kennesaw Mountain. Now we're like, oh, yes. I love those names. Wish they need to make a comeback. They really do. Justice, have another kid and name them Kennesaw Mountain.
What could I name them around here? I'll think on it and come back to you.
1937. We got which is now. See, I always get stuck with this, Justice. The NFL's Boston. Can we call them Commanders? Moved to Washington. They're the Washington Commanders. So you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. That team. So it's always one of those difficult things now to kind of figure out, navigate that way. We got. 1953, the Philadelphia Athletics changed the name of their stadium to Connie Mack Stadium. The change was in honor of their longtime owner and manager. We've got Dr. J in 1977 played in his first NBA All-Star game and was voted MVP. We got anything else here? Roger Clemens, 2008, denied taking performance-enhancing drugs and testimony before Congress. So those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Okay, let's catch up on some of the regional stuff here. I got the brackets up here, Justice. So girls brackets for high school girls basketball came out over the weekend. I know Brandon on Friday was kind of explaining a little bit. It also was like the football thing. It was like the computer simulated sort of thing on there. So let's start with let's go Division 1 here. Just some of the regional. Eau Claire Memorial getting a 5 seed. They're going to be going up against Appleton North. Now these games start next week, right?
Yes. Yep. That would be next Friday for them. There is Tuesdays. There's a couple of for D1. Chi High would play on Tuesday for the regional quarterfinals, and then I believe D2. Everybody else also starts on Tuesday.
Okay.
So yeah, smaller divisions have more teams, so they have more games when it comes to those regional quarterfinals.
Makes sense. So D1, I guess, for our sense, you mentioned Chi High. They're the 18 seed going up against Appleton West. They win, they'll face Superior. And then North is a 13 seed going up against Hudson. Memorial, that 5 seed going up against Appleton North.
So potential North Memorial rematch for the third time. And I give a lot of credit. They have that matchup this week where Memorial eked out a victory this past week. North has improved vastly from the beginning of the year. So, I mean, Hudson's a tough team to play in your first game, but I give a lot of credit. That North team has come together. They got a good mixture of upperclassmen and younger players. Sometimes it takes a while for those two to kind of mix, but they've done a good job. So, and then Memorial, I obviously got talent all around. So it would be fun to see another matchup, but obviously I think Hudson against North is going to be a tough tough matchup in that first game for the Huskies.
Yeah. D2 is really interesting, or maybe it's just me, but you got Menominee as a 1 seed. Then you got River Falls as a 5 seed. Rice Lake's the 6, and then New Richmond at the bottom there is a 2 seed there too. That seems to be a really interesting sectional, Justice.
Yeah, you get a lot of big rivers right there.
Yeah.
Kind of tells you how the populations, the enrollments are skewing there for the difference between D1 and D2 schools, because all those schools are, maybe other than Rice Lake, are close to D1 size. So, yeah, I mean, if Menominee wins, they have a chance of playing River Falls. Then Rice Lake's right there, and New Richmond. I mean, so yeah, if you looked at the brackets, it would be Menominee, New Richmond are the 2 favorites there. So that'll be interesting to see too. Again, Big River's a lot of talent this year, so we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And then D3, well represented again. Somerset's a 1 seed. They'll play the winner between Barron and Osceola. You got Northwestern and Spooner, who will play the winner of that. Will play Amory. St. Croix Falls will play the winner between St. Croix Central and Baldwin Woodville. St. Croix Falls is a 3 seed. Ellsworth's a 7 seed, going up against number 10 Bloomer. Elk Mound is a 1 seed as well. Altoona's a 3 seed. They'll play the winner between Black River Falls and Adams Friendship. West Salem, 2 seed, going up against the winner between Arcadia and GET. Gale Electric Tremolo.
That's going to be a fun bracket to watch, because Elk Mound has been just tremendous this whole season, winning the Dun St. Croix. So I think that'll be fun to watch. But also, you got to watch out for Altoona. Altoona, Michelle Poplinski has a great way of getting those teams to play their best basketball when the playoffs come, and they've been building to it. They've had some injuries, but they're a team to really watch out for. And I think a 3 seed's a good seed for them. And yeah, I think they could make a run, and we could, potentially get an Elk Mound Altoona sectional semifinal. So I hope so. That'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. D4, then we've got Phillips as the 1 seed, but they'll play the winner between Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser and Boyceville. Then we got Ladysmith as a 5, taking on Schwamigan. That winner will go up against Grantsburg. Colfax is a 3 seed. You got Cameron as a 7 seed, taking on Webster. Then that winner takes on the 2-seeded Cadott. Where they're Neilsville, 1 seed. I know you and I have talked about it. Neilsville girls basketball program over there. Whitehall and Mondovi, whoever wins that one will take on Neilsville. You got Abbotsford as a 5 seed, taking on Spencer, and that winner will take on Osseo Fairchild. Durand, Arkansas is a 3 seed. They will play the winner between Colby and Regis. That's not a football game. That's girls basketball right there. And then Augusta, the 7 seed, taking on Spring Valley. That winner takes on number 2 Fall Creek. Another fun side of this bracket.
Oh, that bracket is just loaded. It really is. I mean, if you go from your Colfax, who's a 3 seed, and their big losses have been to Elk Mound, but other than that, they've been really, really good. So, and then Cadott has played very well against some really tough competitors in the Clover Belt. Obviously, Neilsville has been just outstanding this season and should be the favorite coming out of that sectional there. But Osseo Fairchild, they've built this season, getting better and better as the season's gone by. Durand, Arkansas has been solid all year. You throw in Fall Creek, who also has experience, and then don't discount like an Augusta or Regis or Spring Valley, and those teams make some upsets. Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser as well. So it's in Ladysmith.
Yeah.
That is a loaded bracket, sectional 1 there in D4.
That's going to be a lot of great games there. And then Division 5, you kind of have to go towards the bottom side here for this, because you got McDonald Catholic as a 2 seed. They're going up against Glenwood City. Eau Claire Emmanuel Lutheran as a 7, going up against number 10 Owen Withy, who throughout their history of girls basketball, they've got some experience going deep in the postseason. Clayton Cornell in a 6-11. Brandenburg Alma Mater Thorpe as a 14, taking on number 3 Turtle Lake. Flambeau is a 13, taking on New Auburn. And then Clear Lake taking on Plum City Elmwood, Gilman, Lake Holcomb on there too. And yeah, you kind of have to go to the bottom. And then, the top half of that is more the northern teams there. Shell Lake is a 9. You got Frederick as a 13, taking on number 4 seeded Solon Springs. Siren as a number 3 seed, taking on 14 Luck.
And you hop on the other side of the other sectionals. You got Blair Taylor, number 1, undefeated, just a powerhouse in the Dairyland. So, yeah, I think this is another one that's going to be fun to see out. I think it's nice to see. I think if you're a basketball fan, you're happy to see Blair Taylor on one side, and the other, whoever's going to come out of the 1 and 2 bracket, on the other side. So we don't, you don't get teams knocking each other out
Mm-hmm.
before state. But I mean, you got the potential there. Prairie Farm has been outstanding this year, and we've seen a few of their games. But then, you throw in McDonald. You can never discount McDonald
Yeah.
when it comes to the playoffs. And if they can make a run, I mean, we're more than likely going to get it. Not more than likely. I want to say that there's a potential for McDonald Prairie Farm, a sectional semifinal. And then, you go to that. Who would win? Who in that sectional final would be the favorite there? And it's Hurley right now
Mm-hmm.
on that other side. So, or South Shore actually.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be some great contests in this D5 bracket and just the whole brackets all around.
Got Assumption as a 1 seed taking on 16 Port Edwards. That's a short drive on River Drive over there to get that game in there. I know that because I worked over there. So, but you got Athens is a 3 going up against Rib Lake. That's another short drive over there too. We got to give a little shout out to like Taylor County and that over there too. So, postseason starting next week, and then the boys brackets will come out this weekend. Justice.
Yes. Yep. Because they're 1 week, spaced apart there in their state tournaments.
Gotcha. Okay. So we'll wait for that to come out. Before, kind of wrapping up some Blue Gold's scores in that too, Justice. Was there anything else on the high school level of note from this past few days?
We had sectional swimming. So state swimming's coming up this week. You have also we had wrestling regionals.
Oh, yes.
So sectionals will be this weekend for a chance to go to state. Team sectionals are also on Tuesday, and I know Cadott and I believe Eau Claire North are both hosting sectionals in our area here. So you got that going on. High school wise, I mean, on Tuesday, we will start the boys hockey playoffs. Both Eau Claire North and Chippewa Falls have games on Tuesday. Then Thursday, there'll be a full slate of games on both the boys and the girls side as we start the postseason.
Nice. Look at that. And then Blue Golds are going to be wrapping up their regular season here too. They've got, this past weekend, the men's and women's team both taking down Justice Cleveland's alma mater, Stevens Point. Women's team getting a 72-60 victory in Point. Men's team picking up the W at Zorn 82-72. But you look at for those basketball, especially like the women's basketball game going up against Stout in a rematch. That should be a really fun game on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, and it's for the number 2 seed in the WIAC tournament, which means you get a first round bye, and that's huge. So I think both teams are going to come just jazzed up and ready to go. The first matchup, Eau Claire got the win. We'll see what happens here in the second one. Eau Claire kind of righted the ship here this last week after some struggles after a 3-game losing streak, and started to maybe find their rhythm again. And that team finds rhythm, you're gonna be in trouble. But I think those up and down in that women's side and in the men's side, it's a battle, and anybody can knock off anybody in those tournaments. You go with those. Whitewater's got the conference, at least a clinch to share the conference championship. But after that, Eau Claire's 9-4, Stout's 9-4. Then La Crosse and Oshkosh are 7-6 right there too. And then River Falls will get that last spot more than likely. I mean, it still could happen with Stevens Point and Platteville just a game back. But yeah, so on the women's side, it's going to be ultra competitive, and it's going to be the same way on the men's side. Blue Gold's still battling. Right now, they're tied for the 4 seed with Platteville. And so see how it all plays out here. You want to get, if you can get that home game, that would be huge.
Yeah.
If you're the Blue Golds there. So I think you want to get that 4 seed and have a chance to host at least the first round.
Yeah, I agree. And then to kind of wrap it up here, hockey over the weekend, we got one more weekend, and you look at this women's team, Justice, they've been on a great streak right now. If you want to go back to like January 7th, it's been all wins except one tie against Augsburg on January 18th, and no better way to wrap it up with a home and away against UW River Falls.
Right. River Falls holds the 1-game lead right now in the conference. They've won 13 straight. Blue Golds have won 6 straight. I mean, it's going to be a battle. It always is when those two teams meet. It has been for, I feel like, the last 5 years. It's usually up for grabs. So this should be fun to see. And it's great because it's being decided on the ice. And I would say both teams have a great chance of making the NCAA tournament. Obviously, River Falls, if they run the table in the conference, I mean, you can almost just write them in. But the Blue Gold still, you don't want to leave anything to doubt because obviously there's not an automatic bid. If you can knock off River Falls, I think that would get them in too as well. So I think they can get in regardless. A 19-3-1 overall. The committee's going to know how good of a team they are from their past seasons. So, yeah. And Sophia Rosh just setting the team record for goals and scoring for the Blue Golds this week. So she's been just outstanding. And yeah, that's just it's going to be a fun atmosphere. So that home and away, they're at home on Friday night and it'll be at River Falls, which we'd love. It'd just be great if they can get that win on Friday night and then that Saturday game have a chance to go into River Falls and take a chance for take the WIAC regular season title.
That would be awesome. And then the men's team, they wrapped up their regular season this past week and sweeping Stout over there. So now they just kind of are they just kind of in a waiting pattern to see where they're potentially getting into tournament?
Yes. So they are going to be the number 2 seed. So they get a first round bye. So this week they'll wait and see who they get, but huge for them. I mean, getting that first round bye in this tournament is big. I mean, there is an automatic bid in the WIAC. So any less chance of getting knocked out there gives you a chance to make the tournament. And I don't know, what their resume will stack up enough to get them in on their own if they were to lose right away in the tournament. So I think if they can make a run and get a chance to, if they can play Stevens Point or if Stevens Point, who knows what happens in the semifinals, but if they can get to the finals, it would definitely help their resume more to get into the tournament. And if you win it, you're in. So that's the biggest thing now with the WIC tournament.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff there. Appreciate you breaking it down. And Justice is going to be pretty busy coming up here in the next couple of weeks here too. So big thanks for doing what you do there, big guy. We appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thanks to the athletes. I'm just there.
Hey, tell you what, let's take a quick break, regroup, and then I want to get Justice's quick thoughts on the Super Bowl from last night. So we'll hit that up. Then we'll get to some of your thoughts too. Hit us up with a quick text if you'd like at the Shoe Doctors bullpen line 715-830-1912. Or on Twitter, Facebook, and the video stream. So we'll take a really quick break here, and then we'll be back talking a little bit more football after these quick words. That's right. You should be checking out the Man Cave podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. Shout out to good friends at Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford for helping bring that podcast to you all. And speaking of podcasts, don't forget we are now your home for the Eau Claire Express and Chip with Steel podcast. We'll actually have 2 new episodes this week of both the Steel and Express podcasts. Steel Varsho is going to be coming up on the latest podcast. We're getting him out of the winter doldrums to do a podcast here. So
Out of the tree stand.
Exactly. So that'll be coming up this week along with that Steel podcast. You can check it out at our website, sportstalk1051.com, and on your favorite podcasting platform. You know, I want to ask him because we had Sammy, the general manager, on the first one. Northwoods League is also doing a pitch clock this year. So
yes, I saw that. Yep.
That's going to be, I think, really interesting. And I think that's a smart move by the Northwoods League to add another element that helps these players get prepared for the pros if that's their goal.
As somebody who shot hundreds of Northwoods League's games, it is so nice when somebody works fast. Any game, really, it is when you're watching it or shooting it, and this will keep that going. It makes the flow of the game so much better when you don't have a guy sitting out there taking 45 seconds to make every pitch.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's going to be good, and I think it'll just kind of get ingrained in people and help just move the game along, which is key for the fans.
Yeah, and I'll be curious too, like how much of a teaching thing is this going to be for Dale and his group? Because I mean, once those players come in, I mean, they're playing right away. Justice, they're hitting the ground running right away.
Right.
So might be a little bit of a transition for the early part of the season when we get to Northwoods League action. Little, kind of feeling out period.
I think in general, most of your pitchers work pretty decently fast. Obviously you don't want them working too fast. I can think of Ben Sheets back in the day where it used to be like, pitch, get the ball back, just so
Brent
fast.
Suter, former
maybe
Brewer
too
pitcher,
fast to a point.
Yep.
But yeah, I think for most of them, they work pretty decently fast or pretty normal. You'll just get one every once in a while who does, the 3 strolls around the mound.
Yep.
Just the hat.
Well, and then like the other part too is like, they got a max on those pickoffs now too. So you won't, doing that 5 times in a row going over there.
Right.
So
and then getting the booze.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's catch up on a couple of messages here. We've got this is Drew from Eau Claire. Hey Dan, completely agree with the consistency comments. It's no different than an ump not calling some low balls as strikes for 8 innings and then suddenly in the 9th they all turn into strikes. It's frustrating as a sports fan when there's too much room for interpreting calls, but that's part of what also makes sports feel real. Morning, Dan. This Live and Dream Jeff. My issue with the defensive interference was that the ball was so overthrown, even without the call, it wouldn't have been caught. I think the difference, though, it was a holding. Maybe just
Right.
as it was a holding, so that's it doesn't matter if it's overthrown at that point.
Yeah.
If it was pass interference, then that comes into play.
Right.
There.
If it's uncatchable and it's pass interference, then you have a whole different issue. But no, it's because it was holding at the line there. Yeah, that's where you get the penalty and doesn't matter what happened. And Mahomes saw it.
Yeah, that's where you see a lot of quarterbacks. They'll just throw it over there just to put a little bit more attention on that to get that flag.
Right. Aaron Rodgers does the same thing. And they see it and they think they can get it, you do it. So
yep.
I might as well chirp in on it at this point. Do I see where the penalty could be called? Obviously, yes, I can see that. But do I want that called in that situation as a fan? No. I want the game to be decided by a play that involves an actual catch or something like that. Instead, I think we get that, and we kind of were robbed of the chance of maybe a more dramatic finish with Philadelphia.
My thing, Justice, is that there was and I didn't realize last year was the same thing. No defensive holding calls throughout the entire game. And I think you can make a case there should have been a few. Like I know a lot of people are going with the Juju Smith-Schuster one, where he got turned around. But if you look at MVS, who's running behind him, you can clearly see his jersey's getting tugged from behind. Like the guy's trying to play catch up and he's like grabbing onto his jersey and holding him. So like to me, it's like, don't change how you're calling the game right in the last few minutes, because I saw somebody had tweeted us out too, throughout the game, players are playing to what is being called or how the officials are officiating the game. And then all of a sudden in big time moments, you're changing that, which affects the game. So that to me is my issue, is like, why are we doing changing what was been, like Bradbury said after the game, it was a hold. He admitted it was a hold. But my question is, or my frustration is, why are we calling it different in those situations?
Right, because that stuff's been happening all game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, well, let's be honest. That has been happening all game, and you get to the biggest moment in the game, and then it's time to throw the flag. And again, I get it. They admitted it. It's what it was. I think just as a fan, and this is me speaking as a fan,
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see a better ending to the game because it was just a thud.
Yeah.
After you have such a great contest, a classic back and forth game, and to have that happen, and I mean, again, we're not even talking about this if maybe Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble,
right?
The stupid score. We're talking about Kansas City having to make a comeback instead of them, being able to take the lead. So I mean, there's obviously things leading up to that could change the outcome of the game. So we're not gonna, I don't want to completely say that's the play that changed the game because Kansas City was going to take the lead more than likely anyway.
Yeah, they're probably going to make a field goal there, and
yeah, it just depends on how much more time you have
mm-hmm.
for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles to have a chance to get out there and do something. So, yeah, it stinks. That's how it had Zan. I understand why it was called, but in that situation, I'd much rather them just let them decide it on the field. If he's not tackling the guy and it's not totally egregious, kind of let it go.
Mm-hmm.
I think Greg Olsen did a really good job of what he was, conveying the frustrations of a lot of people that were watching.
I agree. I totally agree. And, I know Mike Pereira said that, that's a textbook hole, but like, I thought Greg Olsen did a fantastic job, like kind of voicing the frustration I think everybody was feeling at that point. So,
and that's an offensive player too.
Yeah.
That's a guy who would have hurt that kind of play would have hurt him on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, I think I want to say like Greg Olsen, I think the broadcast team did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a really good job with that game. And overall, it was a fun experience to watch. It really was. It was a good Super Bowl. It just kind of had the anticlimactic ending, just kind of hurts it overall in like the grand scheme of things when you talk about great Super Bowls.
Now, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but I just blanked on his name, the play-by-play guy. So like when they were getting ready for the field goal, how many times do you say, now remember, we're having issues with the field. Everybody's been slipping and all that. Like he was trying to, it almost felt like he was like, hey, don't just assume this field goal is going to be made, even though I think everybody in the world thought it was going to be made. But it felt like he was like saying, hey, there still could be some more drama here, trying to temper that down a little bit, which, I mean, he has to do. But I thought it was like, okay, now it's just laying it on a little bit thick at that point.
Yeah. And I mean, Kevin Burkhardt does a great job.
Thank you. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you kind of had to mention just because of how bad the field was. I mean, that's the other thing that unfortunately a lot of people are going to remember is just how bad the field was. And I don't know if anybody else was listening in halftime, but didn't Terry Bradshaw say they painted the whole field?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know
it wasn't green enough for TV. I bet you I almost guarantee you that's the reason.
Well, the thing is too, is like they mentioned a couple times, the Chiefs played there in week 1, and they said the Chiefs mentioned that it was bad in week 1, like it was slippery in week 1 over there too. Yeah. So it's like, obviously it's been a problem throughout the whole season. I mean, we've been talking more, I think, about field conditions and turf and natural grass this year more than any other year combined at this point. I feel like whether it's ACLs or field conditions out there, but that was definitely something that was brought up quite a bit. And we had a texter saying, good morning, Dan. Don't know if he touched on this yet, but the NFL should be embarrassed about last night's field conditions. It was a joke how many guys were slipping around on the field. Super Bowl should be no place to experiment a new field turf. Fortunate thing is that nobody got hurt. So I don't know if it was a brand new field or not. If they mentioned that, I might have missed it. But I do know they said like the Chiefs were even mentioning it after week 1 when they played the Cardinals. It was really slippery over there.
Yeah, Tahoma 31.
I saw you do some research. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
And it's been around for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it was like they just whipped this up in a laboratory, 5 weeks ago. They've been growing this for 18 months, they said.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly how it works with them sliding, the grass in and out, how they can do it there in Arizona. But yeah, it was not a good look for the NFL to have your biggest game and have people slipping like this. I know you want to play. Obviously, the players want to play on natural grass. We've heard that enough. But almost like, do you want that option there of being able to play on field turf if you don't think it's going to be up to standards. But you have 18 months to try to figure it out, and it just wasn't able to happen. Yeah, it's not a great look on the league.
No, it's not. So, like, I agree with the texter. They're lucky, like, nobody seriously got hurt because I
Yeah.
mean, because even if it wasn't the turf's fault, people are going to blame the turf.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, somebody was it Juju Smith or somebody early on in the game kind of got hit sideways
mhm.
on the grass there, and I don't know how much that was the turf's fault, but yeah, the turf monster definitely got its spotlight
Yeah,
during the Super Bowl.
no doubt about it. So, but you're right. I mean, this was a good Super Bowl. I mean, it was really entertaining and all that. I know we got only a few minutes and then we got to restart the Zoom here, but does this solidify, in your opinion, Justice, Andy Reid is a bona fide start making the bust right now with a cheeseburger and a Hawaiian shirt on him? Andy Reid's a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, and I think he was before this, but I think this just proves that he's maybe the second best coach of his generation.
Yeah.
I mean, you can throw, I think Belichick, obviously. I mean, how many generations have those guys been out there? I don't know which generation you want to count it as, but
24 seasons he's coached, just 3 losing seasons. One was his first one in Philly. Another one was his last one in Philly. That's it.
Yeah, he has been just outstanding. And again, hats off to Patrick Mahomes too for playing with that ankle injury. And that kind of is going to get glossed over a lot by the by the way the game ended. But Mahomes being able to go out there and do that, and for Andy Reid to be able to. I'm not going to go with Travis Kelce saying this. No one believed in the Chiefs this year. That
grinded my gears so much, Justice.
I mean, come on. You're the Chiefs. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Travis Kelce. You're telling me people didn't believe in you? I think more people didn't believe in them last year when they got off to this bad start.
Mm-hmm.
This year, they've been fine the whole year long. When were people not believing the Chiefs? Maybe, you lose Tyreek Hill, but I don't think people were like, oh, this team's done.
No, and it was like, okay, yes, we thought the AFC West was going to be better with all the movements and quarterbacks being added to that division, but I don't think I saw anybody thinking that the Chiefs were like, oh, they're doomed. They're the worst team in the AFC West, with all the improvements. That thing bugged me the most with last night with Kelce saying that.
I don't know. Maybe they were watching the pregame where Fox picked everybody. Which was a surprise to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go in anywhere else, like my household, I think I was the only one that picked the Eagles. Now, granted, my wife's got a decent football knowledge. My kids, but they were the ones that were right. I was the wrong one. So see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. I think all roads lead to the Super Bowl are going to go through Kansas City for the next few years in the AFC, and now the Buffalo Bills. And you go Cincinnati as well, but the Bills got to try not to, have the Peyton Manning to Tom Brady's Patriots during that time. So, yeah, no one was doubting that Kansas City could do this. I don't believe that.
No, not for a second. I'm just like, oh, okay. After the AFC Championship game, you can say what you want about like the Bengals mayor and Burrowhead and all that, but after the Super Bowl, like, to say nobody believed in him this year. Come on, dude.
Yeah. No, that to me was just kind of ridiculous.
I agree.
I also have to give Rihanna credit for a great halftime show. So I know you're always going to have the critics.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing I logged on to Facebook after the game, which was a mistake. And it's like, worst halftime show ever. So one of my friends from when I was like, really? It probably wasn't for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Got Chris Stapleton singing the national anthem. So, I mean, that was awesome. I am a huge
Chris Stapleton was a great rendition.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought she did a good job. I thought she did a great job. It was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And just she sang the hits, didn't have any guests, except for one special guest, I guess, now as they're saying is confirmed after that she was pregnant, doing that as well. So, hey, I thought it did what it was supposed to do. It entertained.
I can't comment because I missed it the whole time because I was in the shower. So I was like, I got to hop in the shower. I got extra time at the halftime. So
right, I think it was what it was, and I get it. Oh, well, I want Metallica to play. It's like
Metallica doesn't want to. That's the thing.
I don't know how many every year somebody posts that Metallica. We need Metallica. It's like they're not going to do it.
Yeah, they don't want to do it. So.
Right, exactly. And I'm sorry, but I think the days of the old, I hate to say it, not oldies, classic rock bands doing the halftime shows is probably past at this point, depending on what your definition of classic rock is, because that obviously changes every year. But I thought it was a very well done show. but I'm not. It's always going to have its critics where people just don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for them. Well, you know what? I think if you can, even if you're not a biggest fan of Rihanna, you can at least look at it and say, okay, the spectacle was great. She sounded great. And credit for doing it while pregnant as well.
Yeah, and going up on that thing, I'm scared of
Yeah,
heights. So,
exactly. Yeah. Somebody said it looked like a Smash Brothers
yes.
or a Mario Brothers. It was pretty cool.
Hey, we got to restart the Zoom here, Justice. So we're going to do that, and plus we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll finish up the first hour with JC in the EC Justice Cleveland. So we'll do that. We're gonna hit up this NFL Network thing about Aaron Rodgers that dropped yesterday. If you missed it, well, we'll tell you what it was. Coming up after these quick words. That promo is perfect timing because Aaron Rodgers is going into darkness today, Justice. Unless he did yesterday. Everybody's assuming it's today, or they said it was today. So he's entering a world of darkness.
Could he just do it for like 3 weeks? Just give us a break from Rodgers watch, because
well, if he does it for 3 weeks, then there's going to be more speculation whether he's coming back or not.
that mean he won't be talking with his friend Pat
I don't think so,
this week then?
unless he leaves
So,
early.
so we won't have any, going over the tea leaves, trying to figure out what he meant.
Nothing,
Ugh.
man.
I'm just done with that stuff. I'm not done with Aaron Rodgers. He comes back. The speculation drives me nuts.
Well,
I'm not a fan. I mean, we've talked about it. I'm not a fan of this kind of drama.
Right.
Some people love it. I do not like it at all.
Whether it's him or whether it's the constant, media coverage and that sort of thing. But yesterday was the NFL Network report that was, kind of like Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero. By the way, were you in Green Bay when Tom was there too?
Yes, actually, he was working, I think, for like the Press Gazette.
Yep, because he started off here at the Leader Telegram. Did you know that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I know, talking to Joe Zemer, who used to work at the Leader Telegram too, telling Tom stories. So yeah.
Nice. But they talked. They had a report, article, whatever you want to call it. Like teams were already inquiring that they expect the Jets to be ultra aggressive and saying Green Bay's more open this year to trading Aaron Rodgers. But the thing that gets glossed over here was this part in their report, saying, on the other hand, if Rodgers decides he wants to stay in Green Bay, the Packers would want him back. The sides had productive conversations in the days after, finishing a disappointing 8-9 season. More convos figured to be needed, though, to make sure everyone is on the same page about the direction of the franchise and the roster. So you know what, Justice? It's back to where it was at the beginning. Got to be Aaron's decision.
Right. Nothing has changed except for all the talk in between that has led back. It's just a full circle. So I'm going to stand by. I believe he will be back as the Packers quarterback for next year. I'll stand by that. That's just my gut feeling. Nothing other than just me looking at it and being like, I think he's coming back.
I will say this is I don't know who the sources are for Tom and Ian, but let's say it is a Packer source. I will say they are doing a masterful job of building this up to being like, well, if Aaron plays elsewhere, it's Aaron's decision, not our decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know some people are already kind of throwing out there like, well, they're saying they want him back, but if Aaron is playing somewhere else, whether it's true or not, that was Aaron's decision, not ours. Masterful job in PR work.
Right. Just good deflecting and just make, go full circle back to Aaron. So I don't know. I think it's just I'm getting choked up. It just fits better with him back there. I know the Jets are going to try, but I don't. If you're him, do you want to go to New York?
That's what I don't understand. With
no guarantees.
Yeah, like I don't.
And also, your head coach is best friends with your old head coach.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's just some weird. I know they might throw the Brinks bus at the Packers, but we'll see.
For as much as he complains about media coverage, to go to be willing to go to New York, have fun with that.
Right. I think people don't realize how easy they have it until they leave Green Bay.
And honestly, I almost feel like Aaron knows that's an advantage to being in the Green Bay media market.
Right. Because you don't really hear Aaron say much about the Green Bay media.
No,
a lot of people have had problems. Famously, like Sterling Sharp did not, like the Green Bay media. But that's also 30-some years ago.
Well, the only thing I heard Aaron tell Pat one time was that, sometimes he doesn't even get hard questions. I'm like, I think some people would prefer that, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the softball. But sometimes it's Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Yeah.
So, but you're right. I mean, I feel like, the more I was thinking about it, I was reading that and I'm like, oh, okay. So nothing new, really. Nothing, out there world shattering. But, you go back to his thing at the end of the season. Well, it's got to be a two-way thing. I just get the sense that, yes, he wants to be there. He wants to play there. He's trying to kind of, push it to hey, this is Green Bay's decision if I don't play here. But now Green Bay's doing the same thing, saying, hey, if he doesn't play here, it's his decision. I feel like Aaron wants to be there. I think I might be changing my position here, Justice. I was of the mindset. I think he's gone. I think he's traded. I think I'm going back. I think he's back in Green Bay.
I mean, that's where I'm going to stick with. The only thing that's still out there on the table is retirement. I know everybody's like, well, he doesn't want to retire the same day as Brady, the same year. But I don't know if that would even play into his head.
I don't think it does. I think that gets overblown so much. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. So I mean, it could happen.
Mhm.
That would be quite the class.
Yeah, and I know Aaron's got an ego. I totally get that. I understand that, but I honestly don't think a Hall of Fame ceremony would deter him from whether playing or not. I don't see that happening, or being a reason, I should say.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, um, we shall find out maybe in the next couple weeks here. Right.
Oh, hopefully sooner than later.
Well, Mark Murphy said hopefully by March, so that's already what do we
Getting
got?
close.
Yeah, 2 weeks. March. Wait, that's yeah. We're talking 2 weeks from tomorrow is already last day in February, bro. It's happening, man. Okay? So let me ask you this, Justice, before I let you go. Do you have to get going here, or can you go to the 8?
I can go, yeah, close to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Aaron does come back, do you think Jordan's traded then?
I think they should try their best to hold on to both. Honestly, I think this day and age in the NFL, you need that really good backup. There's a lot of money though involved, and I think there'd be some restructuring both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think if again, somebody throws the right offer at you, then yeah, I think you trade them.
Yeah.
But if you're not getting those good offers and you can find a way to manipulate the cap, you keep them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're going to have to come up with that 5th-year option, whether they decide to keep him or not, before free agency starts. I think it was before middle March. So
I believe so, because it was his 5th year out, 4th year. What is it?
this will
5th
be
year
his
out?
4th. So the
Fourth.
5th year, that's a fully guaranteed contract for next year.
Yeah. So I think you gotta really try to keep him. I think, as I said, I think you just need a good backup. Now, can you go out there and find somebody? Yeah, but again, he's an unknown commodity, but we've seen enough on the field to know that if he has to come in, he could do a good job.
I know a lot of people, and it's a 1st-round pick compared to a 2nd-round pick. I understand that. I get it. But at the same time, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, I don't think they expected him to be their starter. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe it was like, okay, we're going to try to get, push Carson Wentz here a little bit more, that sort of thing. But I think if you would have told them, hey, within 4 years, Jalen Hurts is going to lead you to the Super Bowl, I think they would have said, I'm talking they Eagles, you're nuts. We're not expecting that. I don't know if they necessarily drafted Jalen Hurts to be their long-term starter, to be honest with you.
Right. Well, exactly. Because he still had Carson Wentz
Mm-hmm.
when they drafted him, and there was even doubt last year.
Yeah. And then Jimmy G is the classic example too with Tom Brady over there. They traded Jimmy G when Brady was 40 years old because he was still playing. So,
I mean, if you have Aaron Rodgers and you can get Aaron Rodgers, and if he's back to 100% next year, I think the no-brainer is keep Aaron Rodgers and figure out what you can do with Jordan Love.
Yep, I agree. All right, Justice, I will. I'll let you go. Okay, but we got a few more minutes to the top. But you get those kiddos ready off for school. Okay.
No problem. Well, thanks for having me again.
You got it, buddy. It was great chat. And I know you got a busy couple weeks up here, so keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job there, big guy.
Oh, thank you. A lot of it's my crew as well. I mean, JD, Philip, Dwayne, always helping out and going out there and and making my life a little easier. So yeah, the credit to them as well.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be a busy but fun time for you guys. So we're looking forward to all the coverage, and we'll chat with you again soon there, big guy.
Sounds good. Have a great week.
You got it. There you go. There's Justice Cleveland, WEAU sports director extraordinaire. Big thanks for him popping on here this morning. All right. We still got a few minutes to the top of the hour before we go into that 3rd hour there. Your thoughts on the Super Bowl, whatever way you want to go about it. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Find me on Twitter at DANKASPER or Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Go about it a couple of different ways here. Coming up next hour, we've got to do some studs and duds. I want to hit that up. I do want to hit up a little Bucks chat here too, just to kind of recap everything. I know we got Super Bowl stuff going on and recapping in that. We don't have a Bucks game until tomorrow night, but it is a huge game with the Celtics. Bucks also got victory Friday night against the Clippers. They swept their quick West Coast trip there with Portland, Lakers, and Clippers. So they're still 1.5 back, though, from Boston for that 1 seed. And who do they have for a Valentine's Day date tomorrow? Boston. It's going to be a fantastic game. My 5-year-old wants to go to the game, for crying out loud. He's already got his outfit. He's got his Bucks shirt. He's got his Bucks cup. He's going to be – he informed me that he's a diehard Bucks fan over this past weekend. So he's already geeked up for this game tomorrow night. But you're not going to be able to watch the whole thing due to his bedtime and such. But nonetheless, we'll hit up some Hoops Talk. And then Badgers. Ugh, losing to Nebraska in overtime. Couldn't close it out again. Marquette did get the victory over Georgetown, but time's running out. We only got six more regular season games here for Badger Hoops. Oh, boy. Got Michigan coming up tomorrow here. Juwan Howard and company. So we'll throw a little Hoops Talk in here. We might have to save the baseball talk as we inch closer to spring training games, which already begin next Saturday, believe it or not. The first one's going to be here on the radio dials at 105.1 FM, 790 AM. But, with pitchers and catchers reporting and team workouts, everything's kind of moved up here with the World Baseball Classic and such. But if we have to move it to tomorrow, I'll still throw out the question. Brewers.com, Adam McCulvey has its three storylines heading into spring training for the Brewers. He's got bullpen on there, which I would agree with. He's got, how these young prospects, how are they going to play out? I would agree with. Then he's got, the new rules, World Baseball Classic kind of combined into one. I would agree with that. So what else would you add? What else would you add to that? Think about that. If we don't get to it today, we'll get to it like tomorrow or such. But I threw out there like third base production. Like, is it going to be Luis Urias? Is he going to be, moved over to second with Colton Wong, now out of there? Maybe the back end of that starting rotation. Can Freddie Peralta bounce back being healthy this year? There's a few other things on there. So what else? What other storylines would you add to this Brewers team as they head into spring training with pitchers and catchers reporting and team workouts coming up here? I think there's a few other ones we could probably, kind of mention or kind of pay attention to. So think about that. That may be a homework assignment for everybody out there. But that shot clock's going to cut me off here. So we're going to kick off the next hour with some studs and duds. I got a few duds. If you want to play along, you can send me your studs and duds from the weekend or the past week with a quick text, Facebook or Twitter, or comment on the video stream. 2 win already on a Super Bowl hangover. Got some quick news updates, and then we'll be back after these few words. All right, here we go. Final hour on this Super Bowl hangover, Super Bowl Monday. Big thanks, everybody, for tuning in. However you're tuning in, wherever you may be tuning in, if it's on the radio dials, if it's online, on the app, your Google and Alexa home devices, the video stream, whatever. Big thanks for tuning in and all the participation so far, the text, tweets, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Your thoughts recapping the Super Bowl from last night? Anything you want to say, get off your chest about the game, about the outcome, whatever you want. We've kind of hit up everything on there, but in case you're just joining us and you haven't had a chance to do so yet, hit us up with that text or tweet or Facebook, all right? So we'll get back to that a little bit. I do want to hit up some hoops chat here for just a quick second as well. Bucks 10-game winning streak right now. Still 1.5 back, but we got a huge game coming up tomorrow night for Valentine's Day. Bucks taking on the Celtics. That one's going to be a whole lot of fun. But it is Monday. It is past 8, and it is time. All right, let's start it off with some studs. So, I mean, the easy one is congrats to the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think Andy Reid, we gotta start to appreciate what Andy Reid has done in his 24 years as an NFL head coach. Andy Reid is a stud for me. Now he's got 2 Super Bowl titles. He has solidified his stance. I think if there was any sort of trepidation, maybe like, is he really a Hall of Famer? That should be thrown out the window now. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He's only had 3 losing seasons in his 24 years. 24 years. He's already been with Kansas City for 10 years, which kind of surprised me. I was like, really? Already 10 years? 2 of his 3 losing seasons was his very first one with Philly back in 1999, 5-11, and his last season with Philly, 4-12. The other one came in 2005 when they went 6-10. He did have a couple of 8-8 seasons on there too. That was 2007 with Philly and 2011 with Philly. Every single season with Kansas City, he had double-digit wins, except for his second year, which was in 2014, and they were 9-7 that year. But you look at it overall, regular season-wise, 247 wins, 641 winning percentage. I think you got to give a stud to Andy Reid, and he's going to add more to it because he says he's going to continue coaching right now. But man, what if he would have been hired as the Packers head coach in '99 instead of Ray Rhodes, huh? Big what if there. Some other studs. I want to give some love to Jalen Hurts. Kind of talked about it in the first hour, but Jalen Hurts had himself a game last night. I know outside of the one fumble that was, you can make a case maybe a big turning point or, it led to a touchdown, defensive touchdown for the Kansas City Chiefs. But overall, Jalen Hurts was pretty darn solid last night. If there was any other doubts, if there was still any doubts about whether he is a, top starter, the long-term starter for the Eagles, whatever, that should be put away. That moment didn't look too big for him. Obviously, he played at Alabama. He's got some experience playing in big games. But Jalen Hurts last night, if the Eagles won, he was the clear Super Bowl MVP. Throwing touchdown pass, 3 rushing touchdown passes. I think if you are an Eagles fan, you got to be feeling good about Jalen Hurts. And part of that, too, is the coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff for the Eagles, putting him in a position to succeed. Not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So I do want to give some shout-outs to Jalen Hurts there, too, because he played fantastic last night outside of that fumble. Studs, I'm going to go one more before I get to the duds. The Chiefs' offensive line. Patrick Mahomes, we knew wasn't 100% coming in. And then before the half, re-aggravates the ankle injury. Coming in and I'm not trying to knock them completely, but coming in, there was a lot of hype about this Philadelphia Eagles defense, and they were number one, clear cut number one team, like getting after the quarterback. Sacks, number one in the league. Number two was the Chiefs, but it was like 15 sack difference. They have great depth. They had a great defensive line. Their offensive line was great too, but I'm just kind of focusing on the Eagles defensive line. Not one sack. Not one sack in that game from that Eagles defense. None. With a banged up Patrick Mahomes. Re-aggravates that ankle injury. Not one sack against him. That offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs did a fantastic job. Game planning was fantastic. Patrick Mahomes getting the ball out was fantastic. Everything. All the above. And that kind of leads into a dud, I would say, Eagles D, come on. I saw Pete Prisco, who covers the NFL for the CBS, for CBS Sports, and tweeted out a few minutes ago. The 85 Bears had to be laughing when the Eagles line was being compared to them. No sacks, none. Great job by the Chiefs offensive line. Yeah, none. Give it up to them. And I think maybe the only sack by Jalen Hurts was it was technically a sack, even though he ran out of bounds, but since he lost a yard, great offensive line play from both sides in that game. My other duds. I'm going to go into, I mentioned it already, Travis Kelce. Dude, the whole shtick about nobody giving you any, nobody believing in the Chiefs, nobody thinking the Chiefs could do anything, doubting them. Just stop. Come on. Some people, okay, you can do it. Some do it for motivation, whatever. But that was ridiculous. Maybe you were referring to a lot of people picking the Eagles to win this game. But you know what? People pick games. I mean, that's the thing. You can't expect everybody to pick the flipping Chiefs or pick one team all the time. Okay? Whatever you can find to get motivated, great, cool, awesome, thumbs up. But this whole narrative of nobody believing you and nobody believing in the Chiefs, cry me a flipping river. Okay? It was so overblown. It was ridiculous. God, it annoyed me last night seeing that. Just stop. Stop. You're the Chiefs. You were the 1 seed. You got Patrick Mahomes. You are Travis Kelce. Ridiculous. Dud. Be pumped you won the Super Bowl. Again. All right? You're good. Don't need to be doing that. Dud. Might as well keep him on this list. Badger Hoops team. That loss against Nebraska. Not able to close it out in the second half. Then you go to overtime, and then you're just a dud in overtime too. Whew. It is not good. It is not good in Madison with this Badger Hoops team right now. Only 6 more games left in the regular season to turn this thing around. Or I shouldn't say turn this thing around. But, what? You got to win. You're 14-10. You win all 6. You get to the 20-win mark. But, oof. You got to go against Purdue. You got Michigan a couple times on there. You got Rutgers, who's had a good year. They were in the top 25. So, I don't know. It ain't looking too bright for that Badger Hoops team. My other dud. It might happen. I don't like it. But if you remember a while back, co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, Mark Lasry, it was reported that he's looking to sell his stake in the team. And according to The Athletic, it was on Friday afternoon, that the Browns, the Cleveland Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, and his group are in serious talks to buy Mark Lasry's stake. We're talking like a big-time stake where, you remember the Bucks have that thing where every few years they've got like a governor owner, or like one owner is like the main guy for a few years, and it's like a cycle and that sort of thing between their big-time investors or their big-time, owners, I should say. I don't like this. I don't like the fact of Jimmy Haslam, the Cleveland Browns owner, being a co-owner of the Milwaukee Bucks and having, and I get it that you won't have full control, like full say, my way or the highway sort of thing. But I don't want that with the Bucks. I'm just looking at, just recent history with with the Browns and such. I don't want that. I don't want it. So if somebody else could come in here and maybe put in a bigger pitch or something like that, but no, please, no, I don't want that. And I don't think it'll mean anything like, well, will the Bucks move? No, I mean, come on, they're new FICE reform and all that sort of stuff, but I don't like. I don't want Jimmy Haslam to be a part owner of the Bucks. It just doesn't sit well in the gut. I don't want that to happen, so I'm putting that as a dud if that were to happen. But money's money. Money talks, right? Apparently, he tried to. Jimmy Haslam tried. So I was reading a little bit from this report. They were trying to get in on the Timberwolves sale when that thing went down. They're trying to expand, his sports group. It's the Haslam Sports Group. But maybe it'll be okay. We'll never know. But no, thank you. Please don't mess up a good thing. What's going on right now, Haslam? If you get in that ownership again, he wouldn't have like the full say. He would probably be the governor sort of thing, every few years and such. But please, please, please don't mess a good thing that's going on with the Bucks right now. Okay, just don't. All right, those are my studs and duds. Speaking of which, with the Bucks, Friday night they defeated the Clippers to complete their 3-game sweep on the West Coast. A well-deserved 3 days off here for the Bucks before they take on the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. As we mentioned, they're still 1.5 back from the Celtics for first place in the Eastern Conference because while the Celtics, even though the Bucks have won 10 in a row, Celtics have won 4 in a row right now. So they're not allowing the Bucks to catch up to them and overtake that one spot right now. Brooklyn kind of falling a little bit here. They're 7.5 back, in case anybody's wondering. How's the effect of KD and Kyrie not being on that team anymore? Well, yeah, they're 7.5 back from first place right now. But going back to that game Friday night against the Clippers, where the Bucks improved to 39-17 on the season. It was a 119-106 victory. Giannis, again, doing his thing. 35 points for the Greek Freak. 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Brook Lopez helping out the cause, being 4 of 6 from 3. 22 points overall. Drew Holiday, 19. Chris Middleton didn't play in the game. But Bucks getting it done. And now, big-time game coming up. Good to see Marjan Beauchamp getting 10 points off the bench in 16 minutes of play in that game too. Getting the rookie back into the swing of things here a little bit, getting him some minutes on there. But I cannot wait for tomorrow night's game with Boston. And when you look at the rest of the schedule here, because you got Boston, you got Chicago this week, then it's the All-Star break, and then things kind of really kick into gear here. Because then you finish up the month of February with Miami, Phoenix, and Brooklyn. Full month of March. And then just 5 games in April, and then you're talking playoffs already. But when you look at it, you got Boston Tuesday, and then you only play Boston one more time after tomorrow night. And that's also in Milwaukee. So I'm just kind of getting a gauge of what the remaining schedule looks like coming up here. That Phoenix game all of a sudden looks really good now with KD. With KD on the team. And that one's also in Milwaukee. So I'm sure that's a Sunday game at noon. I'm sure that ticket price probably got jacked up a little bit there. You got Miami also at home at the end of February. Then you got Philly at home to begin March. I'm kind of looking at some of their big time games and where they're at. I mean, then they got Philly at home again on the beginning of April. Memphis at home for the second to last game in April. That's their last home regular season game. really, I mean, okay, they got Denver on the road in March. They got Sacramento on the road and Phoenix on the road. Those are like the toughest. Golden State, I mean, Golden State isn't Golden State this year, but those are really the only right now, if you're looking at schedule, the toughest road games that the Bucks have left are probably Sacramento and Phoenix in a back-to-back on March 13th and March 14th, and then Denver on March 25th. Otherwise, you've got your 2 games against Boston at home. You got a home game against Phoenix. You've got 2 home games against Philly. Memphis is at home as well, and the Bucks have been freaking good at home, like a lot of NBA teams this year, where they have been just dominant at home. Road records, some teams are a few games above 500, some right around or even under 500. I kind of like how the schedule's playing out here for the Bucks to finish up this regular season here. Boston's like the outlier in this whole thing. They're 23-7 at home and 18-9 on the road. Bucks are 23-5 at home, 16-12, just 4 games above 500 on the road. Philly's kind of the same with Milwaukee, 21-8 at home, 15-11 on the road. Cleveland, who's the 4 seed, I know I've kind of mentioned this before, but Cleveland, who's the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, 24-6 at home, fantastic home record, but they're under 500 on the road, 13-16. You look at the Miami Heat, they're the 6th seed, 19-9 at home, 13-16 on the road. Western Conference, the number 1 team, Denver Nuggets, 39-18, 26-4 at home, but they're under 500 on the road, 13-14. Memphis, 2nd seed in the Western Conference, 23-5 at home, 11-17 on the road. Sacramento is pretty much even. They're the 3rd seed in the West, 17-12 at home, 15-12 on the road. The discrepancies are for some of these teams is like, wow. Home court might be a big-time factor for some of these teams when we get to the postseason. Might be kind of interesting to watch. I'm assuming, too, we'll maybe get to see Jay Crowder, or maybe Jay Crowder in that Boston game for a little bit, for a hot minute. Maybe gets knock some of that rust off, get some few minutes in, work his way into the rotation a little bit. That'd be good to see, right? Get him up to speed. Hasn't played all year. Got to imagine he kept in shape, though. I really hope he kept in the shape. Because I got to imagine once he's got his legs underneath him, he's going to be counted on to be a big-time defensive player, especially when it comes to the postseason. All right, tell you what, we got to take a quick break. We'll get back to some more of your comments about the Super Bowl from yesterday. See what you have to say. Patty Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Andy Reid. Careers and Beers coming up February 23rd, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Brewing Project. Back for round 5 already. For more details, you can just head to Around the 715. That's the number, 715. So aroundthe715.com for more details, and you can register early and save time for the event too. Plus live music. Got the free beer on us right away. So put it on your calendars. Maybe you're looking for a job, or maybe if you were a vendor too, not a vendor, or your place of business looking maybe for some more employees. There you go. Set it up. Head to aroundthe715.com for more details. All right. Finishing up here. Already, man, flying on by here. Just past 8:30 here this morning. Recapping last night's Super Bowl. Your thoughts. You can hit us up if you'd like with a quick tweet at DANKSPER or Facebook.com/Kasper Sports there. I kind of mentioned a lot of things already, kind of, giving some shout outs to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And I wanted to make sure to get a lot of shout outs to Brett Veach, the general manager of the Chiefs, which I think maybe need to kind of maybe it's a, how do I want to say this? Maybe it's like a sour point for Packers fans here too, because, you look at both these teams' off seasons. Green Bay and Kansas City. Both teams lost their number one wide receiver. Both of them traded them. Kansas City, yes, did have Travis Kelce on the roster, which is a big time boost. He's one of the best, if not the best, tight end in the league right now. But you look at the approach of how both of these teams kind of went about replacing their number one wideouts. So the Packers, after trading Devontae Adams, had Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb on their team. 49. Chiefs, you trade Tyreek Hill. Okay, you had Travis Kelce. All right, Packers, I guess you can add Robert Tonyan in that, but he was coming off an ACL injury. So what did the Packers do? They signed Sammy Watkins, hoping to find a fountain of youth or resurrect the career of Sammy Watkins. They signed him. They drafted Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, putting a lot of faith into Allen Lazard being a number one option. Sammy Watkins kind of finding his youth again. Randall Cobb being the safety net for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Robert Tonyan having a career year, and then asking a lot from the rookies. Kansas City, after trading Tyreek Hill, signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling, signed Juju Smith-Schuster to a one-year deal, drafted Sky Moore, traded for Kadarius Toney before the trade deadline. And I get it. A big-time caveat to all that, too, is it's always nice to have Travis Kelce as your option right there, too. But then you kind of look at what else the Chiefs did. And you look at some of the draft picks. They had a lot of rookies contributing to this team, especially like on defense too. Nick Bolton last night had the touchdown. 180 some tackles this year as a rookie. He's a linebacker. Their running back was a 7th round pick. We saw Chanel. Yeah. The Chiefs had some rookies asked to play some younger players to play pivotal roles for them this year. And they answered that challenge. Brett Veach, the general manager, hit big time on this draft. And I think, I'll tell you right now, as a Packers fan, I'm extremely jealous because their youngsters hit right away, year one. Played big time roles. And the Chiefs had success. They won the freaking Super Bowl, for crying out loud. By all accounts, Green Bay was supposed to have the better defense. You're plugging in Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt to already, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not to say the Chiefs were like the number one defense in the league. They were second in sacks and that sort of thing. And they really struggled last night for a big chunk of the game to stop Jalen Hurts and that Eagles offense. But yeah, I mean, there's a big time jealousy on my part as a Packers fan, seeing what the Chiefs did and the type of offseason that they kind of had. And their result. It's like, why couldn't Green Bay do that? A lot of it could be luck. I think a lot of it, could be a little bit of luck involved in there. Don't want to take away anything from, from what the Chiefs did and what their front office did and their coaching. I mean, coaching staff, I think, you got to give a lot of that credit to Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and their staff. And, of course, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you can get away with a lot of stuff. That's why teams pay for their, for their quarterbacks. You got that quarterback. You pay that guy to fill a lot of holes, maybe a lot of holes in different areas. And, on paper at the beginning of the year, maybe the Chiefs are like, oh, yeah, they're kind of lacking in there a little bit. But that's why you pay a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes to fill those voids. And boy, can he. There's no doubt about it, can he. But yeah, there is a big time jealousy on my part watching this Chiefs season, and yeah, knowing the kind of offseason they had and how they built that team, it's like, golly. And you kind of look at it. I mean, you're a Chiefs fan. You got to be thinking. I mean, I know they're already the odds-on favorites for next year when you look at Vegas odds. I mean, because of course they're already out there, and of course they've already dropped and such. But you look at it, you had all those youngsters kind of stepping up this year and getting some big-time moments and some big-time plays. You got to be feeling good about the next few years if you're a Chiefs fan. You got to be feeling really good. And I think just the fact, too, like we talked about it with Andy Reid and his philosophy, the guy has been a head coach for 24 years. He's 64, 65 years old. He is a guy that game plans, schemes it up for the players he has on his roster, and does a fantastic job at it. That helps to have Patrick Mahomes with it, but Andy Reid is a big part of this Chiefs' success too. And it's like whatever they put in there, whoever they put in there, whether it's an MVS or Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyreek Hill, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, whatever, they can move the ball. They could put a 7th-round running back in there, but he's got 4.3 speed for crying out loud, and they can have success. Travis Kelce opens up a lot of things for that offense. No doubt about it, but man, they can do a bunch of different things. And somehow Steve Spagnuolo is still coordinating Super Bowl defenses. How many rings does he have as a defensive coordinator? Was it 4? Was it 4 or 3? I know he's got one with the Giants for sure. Was that 07? I don't think. No, he wasn't with the Giants when they won their one against the Patriots. I have to double check it, but at least 3. So, people are kind of saying, is this a dynasty now with the Chiefs? Is this a dynasty with the Chiefs? Last 5 years with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. It's only been 5, and it seems like he's been around a lot longer than that, for crying out loud. But last 5 years as Patrick Mahomes with the starter. 5 championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances. Hell, remember the one AFC championship game? Was it D Ford? If he doesn't go off sides, they probably go to the Super Bowl that one against the Patriots. But 5 conference championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances, winners of 2. Yeah, this is the dynasty, I would say, of like the 20s. whatever we want to talk about, I know they got it in different decades and such. Absolutely. Nobody likes a dynasty, as a good friend of mine once always said, but man, if you're a Chiefs fan, you got to be feeling pretty good about your immediate future right now. Whew. 27-year-old quarterback. Andy Reid's going to be around for a few more years. Your GM has been hitting on draft picks. You got to be feeling really good right now. Really good. And that second half performance from that offense. 4 total drives. TD. 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 Could have been another TD, but, taking the clock down. Game-winning field goal. Mahomes, 13 of 14. 2 passing tuds. 0 total penalties. 0 sacks. 0 negative runs against that Eagles defensive line. That is one of the most, I think, overlooked, maybe underappreciated parts from that game last night was how well that Chiefs offensive line played. 0 sacks. 0 negative runs. Now, going into that game, if you remember on Friday, we were talking about if there was a way for the Chiefs to establish the running game, they could, because that was one of the downfalls of this Eagles defense in the regular season, was stopping the run. But for that offensive line with a banged-up Patrick Mahomes, especially coming into the second half, knowing that, hey, you've got an injured guy out there. Maybe it's time to tee off a little bit, try to get at him. 0 sacks. That's offensive line, that's scheming, and that's Patrick Mahomes getting the ball out on time. All the above. Everything working in unison. Everybody was on the same page. Everything was just clicking. That second half was a masterclass in offensive scheming and play calling. It was fantastic. But it just felt like, I think it was key. Heading into half, it just felt like the Eagles dominated that whole. I mean, they did dominate, but it felt like they should have been up 17, 18, whatever it should have been. It's like they were just, time of possession. Defense just couldn't stop them. But it felt like it was kind of lucky that the Chiefs were only down at 10 at the half, and everybody's throwing out the Nuggets like, well, only one time as a team down by double-digit points at halftime in the Super Bowl ever come back to win it. And that was, sorry, Atlanta fans, Patriots and the Falcons. It was a 26-1 record. Well, now it's 26-2. Because it's like, even though he's banged up, it's still Patrick Mahomes. Don't fully doubt it. I think it was really key. Everybody talks about the receiver defer thing. I think if the Eagles get that ball to be in the second half, they go down and score, and I think that game's over with. But the fact that Kansas City had it and they came away with that touchdown changed the entire second half. If Kansas City gets that ball right away and they don't do anything with it, I don't know if they win that game. Coming out of that half and going out there and scoring that touchdown early set the tone for the entire second half. It was a masterclass. It's awesome. I didn't have a horse in this game last night. I like Andy Reid, though. So, if I had to be cheering for somebody, maybe it was a little Andy Reid-esque. And I really hope now, if there was, and I don't know if too many people, but if there was any sort of hesitation about whether he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer as a head coach, that should be put to bed. That should be immediately put to bed. This guy is top 5 in wins all time. We'll bring it up here. He's number 5, 247. He's going to pass Tom Landry. He's 3 behind Tom Landry right now. He is, if anybody's wondering, He's actually younger than Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick's currently I don't think these are updated, but yeah, I don't think these are fully updated here, but he's not going to catch Bill Belichick. I don't think. Never say never, I guess, but I don't think that'll happen. But you factor in, yeah, because I think it was a few years ago, before Andy Reid won his first Super Bowl. You can maybe make the comparison: is he like a Marty Schottenheimer? Great in the regular season, boatload of wins in the regular season, but never won the big game. And that's an. I wish it wasn't a knock against Marty Schottenheimer, but let's face facts. It is. Marty Schottenheimer, 8th most wins in NFL history. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Maybe he will, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. I guarantee you, if Marty Schottenheimer had a Super Bowl win or a couple Super Bowl wins, he's probably in there already. He's got 200 overall wins. Everybody else around him is in or will be in. Chuck Noll is right behind him, 193. He's in. Well, he's got 4 Super Bowls. Dan Reeves is 10th, 190 wins. But I also think if Dan Reeves had a Super Bowl win, he's probably in there too. But there was that comparison just a few years ago. Is Andy Reid like a Marty Schottenheimer? Wins a bunch of games in the regular season, but nothing to show for in the postseason. Can't say that anymore now with Andy Reid. 2 Super Bowl rings as a head coach. 2. There's other guys in that Hall of Fame that only have 1, and they're in there. He's a lock. Deadlock. Start creating the bust. Put a cheeseburger with that thing. Put a Hawaiian shirt around him. He's a lock. So, all right, we got to take a break, and then we'll cover the bases here. Finish up this program. Be done for the Monday. We'll cover some bases, last call, all that fun stuff after these few words. Wrapping things up on this Monday morning, we're going to really kick it into gear with some baseball chats coming up here. So tomorrow, giving you guys and gals a homework assignment. Your top storylines as the Brewers head into spring training. Pitchers and catchers reporting this week. We've got a spring training game next Saturday already. So what are your top storylines for the Brew Crew as they get set to open up spring training here? Think about it. Let me know tomorrow. Okay, hold on to your answers. You don't get extra credit for turning it in early or anything like that. So we'll hit that up tomorrow. Yeah, it's hard to believe we already got a spring training game next Saturday. You can check out Adam McCulvey's his top 3 storylines for the Brewers at brewers.com. We'll revisit that tomorrow. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit this morning if you were tuning in throughout, but we'll deep dive into that as we really get into baseball season. Unless you are a diehard NFLer and you're looking at the calendar, it's about 2.5 weeks and then the combine starts already. March 3rd is the first workouts, I think. I think the interviews may start a couple days beforehand when players come in. So, I mean, it's like 2 weeks, okay? It's 2 weeks, and the Underwear Olympics are going to be beginning in Indianapolis for the combine already. Whew. And then the draft's in April. Holy moly. That March, I'm trying to figure out something here, but when we get to middle of March and into April, end of April, that month is going to be ridiculous in terms of constant things going on. You've got March Madness. We're going to get a bracket challenge going up. We've got opening day, the 30th. We're going to do a thing for opening day as well. We got that. We've got the Masters. We're going to do a golf thing for that too. I'm working on something. We've got the draft. We've got the national championship. I mean, we've got a crap ton of stuff coming up here. I know when we talked, was it October or November? It was October, right? Yeah, October. When we debated what's the best sports month, October. Some people said March, April survey. I think you said March or April or something like that, somewhere around there. But this is like 1 or 2 of the best sports months. I know there's kind of a lull now after the Super Bowl. You kind of dragging through February here a little bit. And then we didn't even mention the playoffs are going to be starting in the NBA in April, beginning of April. So can the Bucks be in that position to win another one? Ooh, Nelly, going to be plenty to be chatting about here. But we'll start to really deep dive and then kind of take a look at some we'll look at some of the position groups and all that fun stuff coming up for the Brew Crew. What else do we got? Cover the base. Derek Carr, he is not waiving his no trade clause, so he is set. He will more than likely be a free agent and get to pick and choose where he's going to sign. There was some talks. He was meeting with the Saints. There were some rumors that they had agreed to a trade package or trade compensation, whatever. But Derek Carr will not, or at least he still could go to the Saints, but he is not waiving his no trade clause. So he will more than likely be released and free to sign wherever else. Saints seem like a kind of a nice fit there because Dennis Allen, the coach there, was his Raiders coach when he first came into the league. So obviously they are familiar with each other a little bit there too. But this way it allows him to kind of maybe do some more visits and pick a situation that he's a little comfortable with. Some other stuff to kind of cover some of the bases here. Andy Reid already said he plans to return for this upcoming season. Jason Kelce, there was some talk that maybe he will retire. He's going to take some time to think about it. The center for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that was Jay Glazer that was the first one to report that. The Colts sound like they've got their new head coach going to be plucking from the Philadelphia Eagles, taking a offensive coordinator again. Remember, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles, and he went to the Colts. Well, looks like the Colts are going to be repeating history here a little bit. This time, Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl, but nonetheless, taking their offensive coordinator who just was in the Super Bowl. But Shane Steichen is going to be the Steichen is going to be the new head coach for the Colts, it seems like. And then it sounds like the Eagles defensive coordinator, Coach Gannon's staying in Arizona to interview with the Cardinals for their head coaching job. Now, I think it was after the NFC Championship game that he kind of made a statement that he was staying in Philly and that, but maybe it's changed up a little bit. Maybe he's going to be the new Cardinals head coach. Still waiting to see where that thing's going to go. And it's kind of been kind of quiet a little bit there. But finally, we'll be wrapping up. Got to imagine they're going to get this done this week. I think the Cardinals will have their head coach this week. All right, tomorrow we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst down in Madison. Badger hoops, man, oh man. They got a game tomorrow night against Michigan. We'll talk to him, catch up on all things Badgers over there. We'll be talking about Bucks taking on Boston tomorrow night in a Valentine's date affair. So we'll hit that up. Huge game tomorrow night in Milwaukee. If you're going, you're lucky. My 5-year-old wants to go to the game so bad, but yeah, ain't doing that. So we'll preview that, hit that up. Should be a fantastic game. Got a couple hoops games to be talking about a little bit there. So we've got, what else do we got? We got a pop quiz Tuesday. As I mentioned, we'll talk some Brewers as we inch a little bit closer and closer to spring training and such. Grind my gears Tuesday. Maybe some of it from what you witnessed yesterday in the game will kind of leak into a grind my gears Tuesday. But anything else out there, you can make sure you get it off your chest and let the rest of us know. All right. So go do yourself a favor and tell us what's really bugging you. All right. And if you got any confessions, we're going to start to make the confession thing, I think, maybe a Tuesday thing. I don't know. Still thinking about it. All right. That's going to do it for us. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a good rest of your Super Bowl Monday, your Super Bowl hangover. We'll be back at it again. I'm starting to lose my voice. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, just past 6. We'll chat with you all then.